Sounds good.
All right. Well, good evening. I'm Sandro Tejada, Director of Major Gifts and the Seton Hall Parents Program. Thank you for joining Seton Hall Week in our virtual offering today, How I Got Here, discussion with Lata Setty. This session is being recorded. I just wanted to give you a heads up. We will have an on-demand page and we'll add all our Seton Hall Week recorded sessions to the page. Please kindly mute yourself, and if you don't have any questions during this session, please use the raise your hand icon on the top right of your screen. Use the chat feature to share your questions or hold your questions until our Q&A session. As you probably know by now, Seton Hall Weekend is Seton Hall Week this year. While this year's event will look much different than it has in the past years, we are committed to provide a week-long experience full of engaging virtual offerings for families, alumni, students, and the community. The How I Got Here discussions provide students the opportunity to get a firsthand perspective about the careers enjoyed by talented Seton Hall parents. And I'm honored to have the privilege to introduce our guest speaker, Lata Setty. Lata is a scientist, patent litigator, founder, investor, proud Seton Hall mom to a D1 golfer here at Seton Hall, and an ecosystem builder, bi-coastal in New York City and San Francisco, advising companies at the intersection of technology and newly powerful evolving consumer groups driven by dynamic demographic trends. As a serial entrepreneur, Lata has proven track record launching game-changing businesses that have revolutionized the traditional legal services industry. With her feet firmly planted in Silicon Valley, an established track record of growth at two venture-backed startups, first at Pangea 3 and then at United Lex. Lata has built disruptive companies focused on digital transformation across the enterprise, leveraging big data and cutting-edge technologies to shift behaviors while building new revenue streams, engaging worldwide communities. A committed Rotarian at the Tiburon Belvedere Rotary Club and advocate of Rotoplas International, she serves on the board of directors for her alum, the University of Iowa Law School. Lata also chairs the Minority In-House Counsel Association to accelerate the growth of diverse in-house attorneys and is engaged with the Women's Excellence Network and the nonprofit How Women Lead to accelerate the number and impact of women on corporate boards. Thank you, Lata, for your time and your talent. It's all yours.
Thank you, Sandro. After that introduction, I don't know if I have anything left to say, but I am excited to be here. I have really enjoyed working with you, Sandro, and being part of the Parent Leadership Council. I hope everyone can hear me. Excellent. And what I'd like to do is, first of all, thank all of you for making time to join us. I know a lot of you are in midterms and you have keen practice and commitments. So I appreciate you carving out the time, and I hope our time together this afternoon will be valuable in the long run, both for the parents, but even more so for the students on the call. So let me start off by what I'd like to do is, I think we have 45 minutes together. I'd like to speak maybe 10 or 15 minutes of that and then really open it up for questions, because I think that's where the learning and communication takes place. And I want it to be something that all of you will have takeaway points to ponder after this conversation is over. So with that, I guess I'll start off. Sandra, do you want me to start off with just a little bit of history and background of how I got here? Would that be the best way to launch into this?
Definitely, definitely, whatever you think is best.
Okay, excellent. So my name's Lata Setty, and you can call me Lata, Latte, whatever it is, I'll be there. So I was born in Mysore, which is in southern India near Bangalore, and came with my parents when I was a toddler to the United States. My father was a neurologist in India by training, and he was selected or won a Fulbright scholarship to come to the US to work on his PhD on spinal cord injury and migraine headaches at Columbia University. So my father came from a background where he was highly educated. My mom was in a traditional Indian marriage. She was significantly younger than my dad and had a seventh grade education. Though my dad had all these, medical PhD degrees, and my mom had never finished middle school. Nevertheless, in our home, my mom was considered to be the intelligent one. And she was always an advocate for education, especially for her daughters. So I have an older sister and a younger brother, but my mom's intention was all three of us get the same opportunities to be educated. And with that in mind, I went to college on sort of a pre-med biophysics and chemistry major. I ended up, through some various interesting stories, I ended up going to the Brigham Young University in Provo, Utah. And as you can tell by looking at me, I'm neither Mormon or blonde or blue-eyed, but nevertheless had a fantastic education there. The goal was for me to follow in my dad's footsteps, be a pre-med major, subsequently go to medical school and become a doctor, because if you are South Asian or Asian being raised in America, you have three choices in life: doctor, engineer, or failure. Those were your three options, right? And so I was given a lot of incentive to go into medical school. After college, I started in medical school at the Medical College of Georgia in Augusta, Georgia, which I think had a lot of excitement for my son, Devin, and his golf team, because that's where the Masters tournament is hosted. However, I'm not a golfer. So in my first year of medical school, we had some family health challenges with my mom. I stayed home to be with her, and thankfully she did get better. However, it further refined my idea that I really did not want to be a doctor. I loved sciences, but working with people in hospitals that were sick and so forth was really not what I think I was carved out to be. But rather than leaving medical school in the middle, I went back after my mom got better and did my master's in reproductive endocrinology, primarily the studying of hormones related to human reproduction. Got my master's there. And I realized during the time that I was in medical school that there was a unique specialization in the legal arena called patent law. Patent law is the combination of technology, science, and the legal arena. So it's really a compilation of different technical backgrounds you have to bring to the table. And as many of you know, and some of you may be actually contemplating going to law school, to go to law school, you can come from any kind of undergrad major. You can be philosophy or history or English, but to become a patent lawyer, you have to have a technical undergrad to be eligible to take the federal patent bar exam. The patent bar exam is the only specialty in law, and the federal bar exam is administered by the Patent and Trademark Office. So fast forward, I found that by going into patent law, with a combination of business, technology, and law, and I was very honored to go to law school. Let me see if I can, there we go. To go to law school at University of Iowa in Iowa City. Some of you may have watched the Hawkeyes lose on Saturday, playing back in the Big Ten football this past weekend. So at the University of Iowa Law School, I majored in a number of different areas of law, but my primary goal was intellectual property law. One thing I wanted to say is feel free if anybody has any questions. I might be moving a little quickly, but I would love to hear any questions in real time. And you can either raise your hand or just unmute yourself and go ahead and ask questions. So when I made a decision to go to law school, my parents were not thrilled about it. In the Asian culture and the Indian culture, becoming an attorney or becoming a litigator is somewhat against the grain of promoting, community and the good of the community over the good of the individual. And especially for a woman to be a lawyer was not really looked upon favorably. So after my master's, I took a year to take my LSATs and worked during that year. And I got into a number of different law schools, but my most excited opportunity was getting into Notre Dame School of Law. So I went from Boston all the way west to visit all the law schools that I'd gotten into. When I got to the law school at Notre Dame, Dean Link, who had been dean there for a couple of decades, offered me a partial scholarship, but they were not in a position to give me a full scholarship. However, he picked up the phone, called the dean at the University of Iowa Law School, and said, I have this young woman sitting in my office, I'm going to send her my way. So I jumped in my car, went from Indiana to Iowa City, met with the dean, and really hit it off with him, shared with him what I wanted to do in patent law and my technical background, etc. And I was very fortunate that he ended up giving me a full scholarship to the University of Iowa Law School, which was really important because my car broke down there and I couldn't get it out of Iowa City if I wanted to. So I walked into University of Iowa Law School. The first day, did not know a single person in the state of Iowa. And by the end of the week, I had been elected to be the Student Bar Association representative for the freshman year, which was awesome. But the point being, in our lives, sometimes what we think is sort of a career path or a career trajectory can change very quickly, and we need to be available and open to have those changes happen in our lives. Did someone have a question? It sounded like someone was unmuting. Okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. So after law school, I was able to, sorry, can you hear me, Sandra?
We hear you perfectly. Yes, you sound great.
Okay, excellent. So what I wanted to share with especially the students on the call is that, we all graduate from high school and college with a certain expectation of what our GPA should be, where our careers are heading. But it turns out that we need to be open and receptive to opportunities that come our way. And, my parents come from a Hindu background, and the Hindu holy book, similar to the Bible or to the Quran, is called the Bhagavad Gita, the Gita for short. And there's a famous quote in there. It is, let me see how we do this. It's better to live your own destiny imperfectly than to live an imitation of someone else's life with perfection. And I think all the different religions and all the different holy books have the same sort of sentiment expressed in it. And as young people who are in college or getting ready to graduate or go to grad school or get their first job, I think it's really critical that we carve out our own destiny and to pursue that with passion, to mold and create a life that's of our making. And even though, to the disappointment of my parents, I never became a physician, becoming a patent litigator was a blending of your ability to litigate and be a trial attorney. But rather than, some areas of law which are very aggressive or hostile or adversarial, in patent litigation, because it's driven by technology and you're front of a federal judge versus a jury of your peers, the approach and combination of business and technology was really playing to my strengths, rather than trying to be a physician when that was really not my calling in my, even though my family was in that noble profession. So any questions so far on patent law or applying to law school, and how life sort of creates a path for us if we are open to taking risk and pursuing it? Students or parents, any questions? I'm trying to.
They're a little shy right now.
Sorry?
This is Sandra. I think they're a little shy right now.
That's okay. I've got a few more slides I'd like to share. So going back to my initial slide, I've talked a little bit about my career path as a scientist. I've talked about starting my practice as a patent litigator in New York City. Now, if you go into patent litigation or any kind of trial work in the intellectual property space, there are 3 places to practice that really help you polish your skills: New York, Silicon Valley, and Washington, D.C., where the Patent and Trademark Office is located. I was very fortunate to be recruited by a firm in New York City called Fish and Neve. Fish and Neve was the oldest patent firm in the country, and they had worked with famous inventors for the last couple of 100 years, devising solutions for critical global problems. So Fish and Neve was known to represent clients like the Wright brothers for flight, Benjamin Franklin for electricity, Thomas Edison. And it was such an amazing experience for me coming out of Iowa, moving to the big city. And it was incredibly challenging too, because the majority of people who came to Fish and Neve, because of its reputation, because of its location in Rockefeller Center in Midtown Manhattan, on the top floors of the city, most of the folks there came from Ivy League schools. So I felt very blessed to be able to get a position fresh out of law school at Fish. While I was at Fish and Neve, I noticed that a lot of changes were going on in what's called the knowledge economy. What I mean by that is, initially people were leveraging global teams across the earth for things such as call centers and for engineering talent. And of course, all of us have had credit cards where if you have a problem or need help, you call a call center in India. But what I had noticed being at a big law firm in Manhattan, that more and more clients, Fortune 500 clients, were frustrated with the traditional billable hourly rate that law firms have charged their clients for hundreds of years. Really don't know a whole lot. You know about judiciary precedent and you know about law as doctrine and on paper, but the application and practice of law is very limited exposure when you're in law school. So what I was able to garner is that there's a change taking place in the legal industry, similar to what had taken place the 10, 20 years prior to that in the finance industry, the engineering industry, etc. So myself and 2 other gentlemen who are both attorneys in Manhattan came together to figure out how do we leverage resources all over the world to provide more cost-effective and more helpful legal solutions to Fortune 500 legal departments. With that in mind, the 3 of us, Pangea 3, and Pangea, as some of you may know, is the splitting of the 7 continents from the big landmass, Pangea being the Greek name for that. So we called our first startup Pangea 3 because the first landmass got split during the Big Bang. Then it came together initially by transportation, like trains and steam engines, etc. That was Pangea 2. And Pangea 3 is starting a company that is able to provide legal solutions leveraging talent offshore because of the internet. So we called it Pangea 3 as a way of reunifying the world. And Pangea 3, as my son Devin will attest to, Devin the junior at Seton Hall, he was about 2 or 3 when we started Pangea 3, and he was involved in many of our breakfast meetings and seeing the start and scaling that company. Pangea was all about retaining talent across the world to provide legal solutions, but it's all about labor arbitrage and cost management. So Pangea 3 was funded by Sequoia Capital in Silicon Valley about 2 years into our existence. And we were able to move as a family from Manhattan to Marin County and to start the California West Coast office of Pangea 3. Within 2 years, we had grown from 3 people to about 300, legal professionals, mostly attorneys, based out of India, Cambodia, Ireland, and various other places. And within about 3 years, we were acquired by Thomson Reuters, the financial publishing firm. And then that was in 2008. And then last year, in 2019, that portion of Pangea got reacquired by Ernst & Young, since a lot of the big 4 accounting firms now are getting into legal services optimization. So with the acquisition of Pangea 3, myself and several other attorneys in Kansas City started our second company, which was called United Lex. The distinction between Pangea and United Lex is Pangea was about cost containment. United Lex was really bringing in technology and an e-discovery platform to help not only bring down cost and increase the volume of work, but to also bring in greater transparency as well as visibility to our clients who were like the Ubers and the Facebooks and the PayPals of the world, their legal departments. And what we did was create an alternative legal solution, very separate and distinct from your traditional law firm model. And for some of you who are thinking about law school, the law firms generally have sort of that pyramid model. You have the junior associates fresh out of law school doing doc review, preparation for M&A, mergers and acquisitions work, doing deal review, etc. On top of that, you have your junior partners who supervise the associates, and sitting on top of the pyramid is your senior partners who are considered the rainmakers, the people that go out and bring in the business, who go and win new clients. But the point is, the senior partners get to make a little bit of money from every dollar billed by the junior partners as well as the junior attorneys. What we did was make it much more of a flat, non-pyramid, non-billable hourly rate. So I'll give you an example. At United Lex, about 2 years ago, we worked on the Google versus Uber case. In that particular case, Google had developed this 360-degree camera, which would look all around spherically around a car to keep the car online, to warn you of people who are driving up too close to you, etc. And we were retained by Uber because Google had an inventor who had created that 360 camera, who was then recruited to Uber. And he went to Uber, but not only did he go to Uber, he took all that competitive intelligence on the camera, including their patents, the legal documents, etc., and came to Uber to further develop that technology. So we at United Lex, my patent team was retained by Uber to show Google that those patents were invalid. and that there was no competitive information that was taken by Google. Anyway, we helped to invalidate those Google patents so Uber could continue to build upon that technology. So that's sort of the stuff that we were doing at United Lex. We also had a litigation group, we had a contract management group, and so forth. But we work across the legal enterprise of legal departments for Fortune 500 companies, really digitally transforming how legal services were procured, generated, and utilized. And United Lex, I was the chief intellectual property officer for the last 10 years. And last summer, a global hedge fund called CVC Capital Partners were interested in acquiring us because we had grown to about 20 offices globally, and they had more than 2,400 legal professionals all over the world. So after the United Lex was acquired, I wanted to take the experiences that I had initially as a scientist, then as a trial attorney and patent litigator, and then having launched and successfully exited 2 different venture-funded technology startups. And I took a little time to reflect on what had I accomplished, what were some of the challenges that I had faced, and now I was in a position to really give some thought on where I could have the greatest impact for the remainder of the life that God has given me. Let me stop for a moment because I've been talking for about 30 minutes almost. Sandra, any thoughts, questions, feedback before I continue?
There is a question. I think there's a
Hello?
raised hand.
Hello.
Did I lose everybody?
So I actually have a question. Yeah. I looked through United Lex before this lecture and kind of was curious more about the digital transformation aspect. I have some experience and some like knowledge. So is the digital transformation essentially just like related to the law aspect of how businesses are like doing business, or is there more to it? Because I've kind of looked through the LinkedIn and website and I was just curious to that point.
Lata, did you hear the question?
Yes. The screen is freezing up a little bit. May I ask who was asking that question?
I'm sorry, what was that, Lata?
Who asked that question, Sandra?
Yeah, I didn't see who was. Can you introduce yourself?
My name's Casper. I'm a junior finance major, and I have some interest in law, but more interest in digital transformation and kind of the future aspect of that.
Sure. I'm sorry if the screen is freezing a little bit. We're in Vail, Colorado, where it's -2 degrees and snowing, so my apologies. So what I mean by legal transformation of the legal industry or digital transformation, what we did at United Lex is the work we did for the Fortune 500 legal departments were large-scale, voluminous projects. So, for example, large-scale litigation or preparation for an acquisition in a mergers and acquisition context. And what we would do is we would use our technology, our online e-discovery platform, our artificial intelligence, our machine learning algorithms to make the legal work more efficient as well as higher quality. So let's say Facebook is acquiring I'll give you a real life example. Verizon in New Jersey was interested in acquiring the patent portfolio that Yahoo had in Silicon Valley. And there were millions and millions of documents that needed to be reviewed to make sure during that acquisition, the right documents came as part of that acquisition, as well as some of the patent assets that were not going to be part of the acquisition would be farmed out to another patent licensing entity. So what we did was, rather than going through each of those documents physically, hard copy, everything was uploaded onto our patent platform. Then our attorneys and our patent engineers could look through it using our algorithms, so they could narrow the search down to a particular search terms, or to a particular inventor's name, or a particular time frame. And that way you not only increase the speed, but you also increase the quality of the work and minimize human errors. So not only is it a lower cost, but you get better quality work. And by the same token, we would do that across the legal enterprise, the legal department. So in litigation, right, you could take $1 million document litigation document review and do it online at better using search functions, algorithms, and other e-discovery bells and whistles to minimize the number of documents that would have to be actually reviewed by an attorney, because the machine learning and the artificial intelligence of these e-discovery platforms would speed up the process and narrow the universe of documents that need to be studied and looked at by a human brain, a human attorney. Is that help answer a little bit about what we do in digital transformation?
Yeah, for sure. Thank you.
And it was an interesting time because, for example, the Patent and Trademark Office now does everything online. There is not a shred of paper in the office, including the filings and the review. And the same with litigation. In my olden days of New York life, you would take bankers' boxes of hard copy documents home on the subway to review at night, as opposed to now you can just log in anywhere in the world and look at those documents for your client. And what's even more interesting, at the end of the day, when you go home, your client can log in and see what work their attorneys have done, which we wouldn't be able to do 10, 15 years ago. Any other questions? Okay. Sandra, can you see my screen?
There's a question from Alexander McCauley. You could just unmute yourself and ask the question.
Hi, Lata.
Yes, please.
So I saw that you have done like many jobs throughout your life and in many different like sectors and stuff. Like, what was your?
Hey, Macaulay.
Hey, how are you? I was just wondering, like, what was your favorite position in what company and why?
Lata, did you hear the question?
I'm so sorry. It was up badly. Macaulay, can you type that question in? It's cutting off really badly. Or did anybody else hear who could repeat? Maybe you're on the golf course, Macaulay.
I think the question, Lata, if I heard it correctly, was that out of all the positions that you were in, which one was the one that you enjoyed the most? And I am definitely paraphrasing.
Sandro, can you repeat the question if you can hear?
Lata, can you hear me? It's Sandro. Lata?
Could be my Wi-Fi.
Lata, can you hear me?
I didn't hear your question, Alex.
Lata, can you hear me? It's Sandro. Lata? What
I'm
was
going
your
to turn my
favorite role in
camera
your
off for a
career
minute
and
to
why?
see if maybe we can get better reception. Sandra, did you hear the question? If you do, please repeat.
Yes, I heard the question. It was, what was your favorite role in your career and why?
I guess I'd have to say my favorite role and my most significant role have been my best startup company I incubated and launched, and that would be Devon Ramachandran.
Lata, if you turn off your video, you might get a better bandwidth consumption.
Got it.
Thank you, Raja.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you. Just turn off your video and
Hi.
just leave it on.
Sandra, raise your hand if you can hear me. I was saying my favorite role in life.
We can hear you now, yes. Just turn off your video and just leave it on, leave your speaker on.
I turned my camera off to hopefully get better reception.
We can hear you better.
It's off. Okay, can you hear me better now?
Yes, we can hear you.
There's something wrong. So we're trying to get you back into the meeting. Hang on, you can hear me. They're trying to get me back in the meeting here. My apologies. It seems to be kicking us out.
We can hear
Can
you.
you hear me, Sandra?
Yes, we can hear you, Lata. Now we can't. Are you speaking?
Okay, good. So the question was, what was my favorite role and why? By Macaulay. Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Okay. I'm glad you can hear me. I was going to say my favorite role is the opportunity I had to launch my son Devon Ramachandran into the world. But my serious answer is I think my favorite role is what I am playing right now. Having helped launch the How Women Invest Fund in August of this year, it really brings together the culmination of all that I have done that have been technology driven. First of all, having started two startups, helping with the fundraising each year, including in 2019, $137 billion was raised in venture capital just in the United States. Out of that 137 billion or so, only 2% of that venture financing went to women-founded companies. Of that 2%, can you guys hear me?
Lata, we can't hear you.
Of that 2%, less than 0.002% went to women who were women of color, Asian, African American, Hispanic, etc. And I believe that entrepreneurship is the way to build the best future wealth for each of the students on this call, as well as generate new jobs and help the economy overall. Women tend to hold on and spend most of the family purse, meaning the budget, and yet women generally tend to invest in more risk-averse areas like the stock market, real estate, in their 401k, etc. So what we're trying to do, and I'm not going to show my slides because the Wi-Fi seems to be sketchy, but what we've done at the How Women Invest Fund is to attract a whole new group of angel investors, primarily women, and due to a change in the legislation at the SEC level, Security Exchange Commission, now you can have a fund up to 49 limited partners. And rather than going out and raising venture financing like the Sequoia Capitals and the Canaan Partners and the Goldman Sachs venture firms that had invested in my startups, what we've done is gone out and attracted investors who put in smaller dollar amounts, like maybe 50,000 or 150,000, to create a fund of $10 million. And we closed that fund in August, irrespective of the fact that we had a global pandemic going on, racial unrest, financial downturns, and all the smoke and fires in California. We closed that fund at $10 million. Our goal is to invest in 10 startups over the course of the next 2 to 3 years at about $1 million per startup, and we usually write checks anywhere between $250,000 to $450,000 for these startups. So what we're doing is helping these companies bridge what's called the Death Valley gap, meaning when they first launch a startup, they will invest, through their credit cards, through their small family and friend circle, maybe, scrape together $100,000 or $150,000 to get their first, website launch, their minimum viable product, etc., started. But before they can go out and get, large, 10, 20, $30 million from venture capital firms, they need to show some amount of revenue, some amount of traction in the marketplace. So we're helping bridge that gap with anywhere from $500,000 to $250,000 to get them to a place where they'll have their product or service in the marketplace, show some revenue, and then they can go after bigger dollars in what's called a Series A. So we're providing seed or, pre-seed capital. Having said that, what's important to note is in the venture capital industry, there's been a number of funds now that are starting to put money in to invest in women-led companies, people of color companies, etc. But what we've done that's very novel is attract angel investors to, vote with their dollars, to show us how their values are aligned with their investment decisions. So that's really the premise of How Women Invest, women investing in women for greatest impact and social value in the products and services they're supporting. Any other questions? Thank you, Macaulay. Any parents have any questions? I know there's a number of parents who had registered as well. Sandra?
Lata, yes, I did receive a question from a parent who's unable.
I'm going to try to pull up my slides because I'd really like to talk about what I think is critical for students to know right now. I've talked a little bit about my career path: scientist, trial attorney, patent litigator, entrepreneur. And now I feel like I'm in a place in life where I can be an investor, a fund advisor, a limited partner to help others start and build their companies. And I think that, especially being COVID, and many of you are upperclassmen or have getting ready to graduate and trying to make decisions about graduate school versus, going out into the marketplace. So let me see if now my screen share, I have enough Wi-Fi. Yes, please. Was there a question?
Lata, yeah, it's Sandro Tejada. I did receive a question from a parent who was unable to attend, but I think one of the things that she wanted to know, and she knows this in regards to her career.
I'm sorry.
Lata, you can hear me? Lata?
It's breaking up really badly.
Mm.
If you want to text me the question,
Just share it in the chat. I don't know if you can hear me. It's Sandro. Can you hear me, Lata?
I cannot. I just texted everybody to say, please text your question. I can hear you now. So can you repeat the question?
So I received a question from a parent. She would like to know if you can share the importance of networking
Was
and
that Greg
relationships
for asking
throughout
a
your career.
question?
Say that again. Can you see the question in the chat? I just posted it, Sandro.
I'm so sorry. This is painful to see. I'm trying to see what the question was. I thought it was on text.
It's via chat. Can you hear me, Lata? It's Sandro.
Yes, I can. Can you just repeat
Okay.
your question?
Yeah, the question is, please share the importance of networking and relationships throughout your career.
I will, and I have some great slides. I will send it to you, Sandro, to circulate after this call. I'm afraid if I pull it up, the Microsoft Teams won't work.
Yes.
I
And we
think
could probably
to step back for a minute.
Sure.
To me, of all the different things that a person can bring to the table, their intelligence, their good grades, their expertise in their courses and their major. The one thing that has been a North Star for me is the relationship. Can you see my slides?
No, Lata. I think if you put your slides up, it's gonna
painful.
We're gonna have your voice is gonna break up.
I don't think you can see my slides, but going back to relationships, I live by the motto of three simple terms. That's on my slides. You can't see. Don't aim for perfection. Don't be afraid of your dreams, and to pursue what you think your strengths are. Number two, Once you let go of your fears and you pursue those, looks like something went wrong. We're trying to get you back into the meeting.
Lata, I think we might want to just wrap up the call since we're just having pretty bad connections here.
I don't think I like Microsoft Teams. It's worse than Zoom. I've never had this many problems before.
Lata? Lata, I think we're going to just wrap up, and you were able to share a good amount of information.
I don't know if you guys can hear me, but the connection is really bad.
Lata, I think we're going to wrap up the presentation just because the connection is really bad. Can you hear me? Oh, that's a shame.
Is it working? Sandra, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Lata, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I think
I
we
just
should
wanted
just.
to say thank
Oh,
you.
oh, oh, you're welcome. Thank you. And I think we have enough of the recording that we could edit and share with everyone.
Okay, I'm going to send you the slides.
Yep,
That if you could circulate
I
to the
sure will.
audience, especially the students, because there's a whole section on networking and what we should be doing during the times of COVID and
Okay.
how building Is anybody else on, or is it just you and me,
I think
Sandra?
there are about 12 other folks on the call still.
Oh, okay. I wanted to thank you all for your patience and your time. I was not expecting a snowstorm here and the interference here, but I will share my slides and some steps on what we can do to build relationships, and especially during the times of COVID. It's a critical skill and a great utilization of our downtime right now, and a way of pursuing internships and jobs. My sincerest apologies that the Microsoft Teams connection and the Wi-Fi didn't work in our favor. But what a pleasure to hear your voices, and I'm so grateful for this opportunity. I will also share my contact info on the slide, both my personal and professional email and my cell number. If any of you have questions, I am happy to jump on a call or communicate by email or text. And I do hope there was some value that came out of here. And thank you so much for the time you spent. And thank you, Sandro. Thank you, Devin and Seton Hall, for inviting me to participate in launching the How I Got Here series. Please reach out to me. And if there's anything I can do to help facilitate introductions or look at your resumes or how to help optimize your LinkedIn and other profiles in social media, I would be more than happy to spend some time with all of you doing that. Thank you.
Thank you, Lata. Thank you so much. You were tremendous and you shared a lot. So before we had the issues, I think there was enough content that we could share with our whole Seton Hall community. And we really appreciate your time. And I'm sorry about the connectivity issues, but you can't fight against Mother Nature. So, but there was a lot of information shared. And I thank everyone for joining us. Lata, thank you and have a great evening.
Thank you, Sandra, for organizing this.
Take
Be well,
care.
everyone.
God
Bye-bye.
bless.
God bless. It's painful for them. Gregor was asking questions and